Hello and welcome back to the Scenario 7 podcast. My name is Sam, and in a week that sees a legendary driver bow out of F1 and Kimi Raikkonen, we bring you an Abu Dhabi Grand Prix preview, looking back at fond memories and giving a weekend predictions. This week, I'm not joined by two people, I'm only joined by one. I'm joined by the legend that is Matt Collier. Matt, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm all good. Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, that's great to have you. Everyone else has pulled out, so poor from them. Joe's Wi-Fi router's broken, so we're going to do it for us too. And what a podcast it's going to be, because we are previewing the final race of the season. What an incredible season it has been. We've had drama, we've had action, and the final race is what it comes down to. Both drivers, Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, are sitting on level points going into the final race, which is the first time this happened since 1974 between Emerson Fittipaldi and Clay Regazzoni, which Emerson Fittipaldi won. But I mentioned in the intro that we're seeing two drivers bow out of F1 after this race, and they are Kimi Raikkonen and Antonio Giovinazzi. Matt, can you tell me, first of all, give me your thoughts on Giovinazzi leaving? I mean, you said it a few times, but yeah, tell me what you think about these two drivers, because unfortunately they won't be in the sport next year.
Yeah, I'll start with Giovinazzi first. I've covered it in a few podcasts before. Basically explain that his race pace has never quite been there, but his quality performance has massively improved over the seasons. I remember Monaco, I think he qualified in the top 10. He's definitely improved, but the problem that he's struggled with is getting those points. Every time he's qualified, up the grid, he's automatically just dropped down many places. Kimi Raikkonen, Mr. Iceman, I think F1's definitely going to miss him, especially his quiet and short interviews. He's done 19 seasons in F1, I think, which is a lot for him. I think he started in 2001, back in the day, and he'll be massively missed. He still had some amazing races this year. Even last year, I remember the Portuguese Grand Prix, him starting on the soft compound tyres in the tricky damp conditions, flying through the grid. And even now, he's shown that he's still got it. In Russia, he had another brilliant race. And the two of the drivers will definitely be missed.
They certainly will be. Kimi Raikkonen is such a legend, as you said. His calm persona, he's so funny, but it's not even intentional. Sport is just a hobby for me. One of the quotes, and I love what they've put on his livery, his livery for this weekend, special livery. Both drivers have them, but I'm going to draw attention to Kimi, and it says on the side, "Dear Kimi, we will leave you alone now," which I think is so funny, and it kind of sums up the relationship Kimi's had with the sport. And with Giovinazzi, he's moving on to Formula E, so I'm happy that I'll be able to see him still in a Formula Series. And I really wish them good luck, Giovinazzi, at his new team, Dragon Penske. But let's move on to the preview of this race. And first of all, let's talk about the track, because it's had some changes. We are used to seeing, I'm not going to lie, Abu Dhabi for me in the past, it's been pretty hit or miss. We've had some good races. We've had some amazing moments, but at the same time, we've had some pretty uneventful races and some, not very interesting races, but they've made some changes, and I'm going to run them through. So first of all, the North hairpin has been widened, and the chicane before it has been removed. The second change they've made is at the end of the second DRS section, they are removing the 4 short corners and created a banked corner, which they think is going to be quite iconic we'll see when the race comes around. And then the hotel section is getting opened up to make it a bit more fast flowing. That is definitely the most minor change. But Matt, what do you think these changes will make the track better and increase overtaking? And yeah, what do you think about the track?
No, I think the changes they've made were very much needed, especially after last year's race. I mean, that was probably one of the dullest. I remember Jeremy Clarkson wasn't too happy with how that race ended up going. But yeah, the changes they've made, the last sector, as you said, the hotel sector there was just no flow to it. The cars couldn't follow through that sector, and yeah, the banked corner, which is now turn 9, it's had some quite famous overtakes, I'd like to say. Carlos Sainz lunging it to get that point he needed from McLaren. Sergio Perez saying he did one of his best overtakes ever at that corner. But yeah, all in all, I think the changes they need to do. It'll be interesting to see next year's regulations, how that will affect this track. But yeah, I expect a better race from last year.
Yeah, I'm certainly hopeful because last year's race wasn't the best. I'm actually going to talk about it a bit later, but yeah, I'm hopeful. I'm cautiously optimistic because we haven't seen anything from this. We've just seen the track. We've heard what they're saying it's going to do, but we need to see it in action before I'm fully convinced. But yeah, I'm certainly very hopeful that this track can provide a lot better racing because the final race of the season, you want a showpiece, and Abu Dhabi definitely puts on that with the fireworks. It's an amazing event, but you need racing alongside that, some excellent wheel-to-wheel action. And if they can have a combination of them both, then Abu Dhabi will be the perfect venue because they've recently signed a deal, so they'll stay in F1 until 2030. So we're not getting rid of this race anytime soon. So hopefully these changes will be very, very good for the sport. And another question I have about the track, because for the last week, everyone has been asking the same question, and that is, who does this track suit? Is it Mercedes or is it Red Bull? Because everyone wants to know who the favorite is. A lot of people have said it's pretty neck and neck. A lot of people are looking on form of last year. Red Bull did really well, so they'll do well this time. Verstappen winning the last race, but Hamilton had COVID, wasn't performing well. That's what the Mercedes guys are saying. And the track is now almost completely different with these 3 changes. These 3 changes may not seem a lot, but they can really change who a track suits. So in your opinion, Matt, who do you think this track suits?
Yeah, it's definitely a tough one. Verstappen last year, that was his only race win of last year, the only non-Mercedes pole position from last year. But as you said, it's very neck and neck. Nobody's quite sure who it's going to suit. I still think the Mercedes raw power, will overdo the Red Bulls this weekend. So I still think Mercedes slightly have the edge, especially because of the long DRS zones. So I think Hamilton and Bottas should still do quite well this weekend.
Yeah, no, it's certainly going to be interesting. I really cannot wait. This is the most excited I've been for a race for a while, and it's going to be awesome. But now I'm going to pass over to Robert for our Abu Dhabi track guide using the F1 2021 game.
For the last time this season, hello and welcome back to the Scenario 7 track guide. It's time for the finale at Abu Dhabi. This is the Yas Marina circuit, which will have a new layout this weekend. That means we had to improvise since the F1 game features the old layout of the track. I will point out the changes when we get to them. Right, we are underway now on the quite short pit straight here at Abu Dhabi. We're now headed into turn 1. Make sure to brake just before the 50-meter boards, downshift into 4th gear and start opening the throttle as soon as possible. You then need a good line into the left-hander of turn 2 which then allows you to actually make the next corner, bearing in mind that this combination of turns is taken flat out. We will see the first major change to the layout now as we completely ignore the chicane and head straight for the hairpin of turn 5. Now we're just beginning sector 2 as we open the DRS. Getting rid of the chicane will save a few seconds of the lap time around here, and overall it just makes the hairpin a much trickier corner now. Expecting a few lockups, especially in the practice, as the drivers get used to it. Turn 6 and 7 stay the same. It's very important to get a good exit out of this complex, because we are now driving on the second DRS straight, with the DRS open, of course, right there. The next major change to the layout is next, as you will see me drive off the track, avoiding the chicane completely. This is not the most accurate representation of what's to come, but it's the best we could do with the game's limitations, of course. And now we're just beginning sector 3, which will pretty much stay the same. It's still a very technical sector, especially here right below the stunning Yas Hotel in Abu Dhabi. You can see it on your left there. This is turn 13, and on the exit of turn 14 we've only got 2 more corners to go. Drop it into 5th gear through turn 15. Hard on the brakes now for the final corner, and across the line we go. That is a lap of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix.
Thanks for that, Robert. Now let's move on to our next section, and that being fond memories. So there's only 2 of us, so we're only going to hear 2 races. And I'm not going to lie, I picked my race because I feel like someone needed to mention the last race. So we're not going to have the most exciting race to talk about from my point of view. But Matt, I know you're going to talk about a cracker. So Matt, what is your fond memory of this track?
Yeah, you're taking the role of Josh there, who likes to always do last year's race. But for my fond memory, I've chosen 2010. It was a 4-way title decider. I mean, that says it all, really. It was an absolute cracker of a race, as Sam said. So before the last race, there was 4 drivers in contention. We had Lewis Hamilton on 222 points, Sebastian Vettel on 231 points, Mark Webber on 238 points, and out in the front, Alonso was on 246 points. But that's not where it all ended. To begin with, I'll go through the qualifying. So Vettel qualified on pole, Hamilton qualified P2, Alonso qualified P3, and Mark Webber qualified P5. As the race went on, Michael Schumacher ended up spinning on lap 1, and Liuzzi ended up crashing on top of him. And this is where the race unfolded, because that brought out a safety car. Now, many drivers pitted on lap 1. Rosberg and Petrov in particular pitted on lap 1, and their engineers said, we're going to hope these tyres can go all the way to the end of the Grand Prix. And that's where the whole race kind of opened up, because all the top drivers didn't pit on lap 1. So yeah, Webber ended up pitting on lap 8. Alonso ended up pitting lap 15, and it definitely brought out the best of some of the drivers, and some of the drivers was just really unlucky. Alonso couldn't get past Petrov. He tried all he could to get past Petrov, but he just couldn't do it. Sebastian Vettel did what he needed to do, and that was to win the race. Fernando Alonso, I mean, he was on 246 points. Vettel's on 231. You think this was Alonso's championship, confirmed basically, but Alonso in the end could only manage P7. Alonso was not very happy after the race. I remember he pulled up beside Petrov and turned his car into him and gave him a bit of a few few hand signals. And Hamilton finished P2, Button finished P3, and when Vettel crossed the line, he was the youngest ever world champion because of that race, and his engineer came on the radio. You just wait there, sunshine. You just wait, and he read out the order, and I'll do my best pronunciation, but he said "Du bist Baumeister," and yeah, it was a cracking race. A race really all decided by that Michael Schumacher Lewicki crash on lap 1. A race of strategy, a race of many different things. Crucially, when Vettel pitted, he just came out ahead of Kobayashi. They were side by side, exiting the pit, so that was very crucial for his race. Lewis Hamilton, as I said, his tyres were dropping off massively. He wanted to pit, but the engineer said, you know, we can't pit. We have to stay out to keep our championship alive. And another point I've written down is Barrichello did one of his best overtakes he's ever done around this track, and yeah, it was a phenomenal race. 4-way title decider, as I explained, but Sebastian Vettel came out on top.
Yeah, no, Matt, you're German. It's almost fluent. It really is. But I think that is one of the races I've rewatched the most. It probably is the race I've rewatched the most because it was such a crazy race and the stakes were so high. It really was an awesome race. And for my fond memory, I'm not exactly going to talk about. It's not really a fond memory, but it was last year's race, so it was a memory, and I thought I'd have to keep Josh's flame going and bring this up. So yeah, last year's race. Before the race, you have Pietro Fittipaldi replacing Romain Grosjean in the Haas for the second race in a row. Of course, we know what happened to Grosjean in Bahrain 2 races prior and how horrible that was. Amazing that he walked out alive. So Pietro Fittipaldi replaced him for this race. He didn't do particularly well. He did finish last, but I'll go to quali. Max Verstappen put his car on pole with Bottas in second, Hamilton in third, and they were all separated. The top 3 were separated by a 10th. So the margins were so fine in qualifying. The only real noticeable thing that happened in the race that I'm going to mention anyway is on lap 10, the race after he gets his first ever win. Sergio Perez has a car failure and has to retire. It was gutting. Racing Point, after Perez's win, finally thought they were going to wrap up third place in the constructors, but no, it really didn't work out that way because the retiree meant that McLaren could capitalise, and it was a shame because in F1 it happens a lot. You have a great week and then it just bounces out by either your car failing or you have an accident or you just underperform it. That happens a lot in Formula 1, but Hamilton's defence against Albon, who was pushing for 4th, Hamilton was sitting at 3rd, ensured that the quali result was the race result. And I'm not gonna lie, normally when the qualifying result is the same at the end of the race, it's not the best race because nothing has really changed. And that was probably the case here. So Verstappen won with Bottas second, Hamilton third. But I think Hamilton's achievement of coming third in this race, he'd already wrapped up the championship, but he'd had a race off because of COVID. So it was his first race back. And you could tell after the race, and he even said he was not feeling great at all. So the fact that he qualified third and finished third, holding on against Albon, who was pushing really hard at the end of the race, was a pretty great achievement. But yeah, that is my memory of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Some definitely not as good as yours, Matt. But yeah, let's now move on to what we expect to see this weekend. So these are 5 general predictions of what we expect to see. Matt, what are yours?
So my 5 general predictions for this weekend, I think George Russell will get into Q2. He's very good around this track. I remember, who was it? Anthony Davidson. Obviously, George Russell got his chance in the Mercedes and then came back to the Williams, and Anthony Davidson said Does he think he's in the Mercedes? What's going on? Because he ended up setting the fastest first sector in one of the practice sessions. So I think George Russell will do quite well this weekend. My second one's a bit of a boring one, but I don't think there'll be a safety car during the race. My third prediction, I think Mercedes will finish 1 and 2. I think Bottas will be fueled up. His last race at Mercedes, he'll want to give it absolutely everything. I think someone will get a grid penalty. Maybe Hamilton will take a grid penalty. Maybe a five pace grid penalty to give him that extra maxed out engine. We'll have to wait and see. And then for my fifth and final prediction, I think Kimi Raikkonen will win Drive of the Day.
Not Max. Flipping out, I was thinking of Max Verstappen. Matt, I've got some similar ones to you, but on that Lewis point, I was very close to putting this in my 5 general predictions, because I was hearing Sky reporting that Lewis might take the 5 place grid penalty and get a new engine, because we saw what impact that had in Brazil. But it's a massive risk. If this goes wrong, then it's handed Verstappen the championship. So it will be very interesting to see what happens. But I personally haven't gone to it. My first one is Bottas's last podium in F1. I don't think he's going to win it. I would love him to win it. Realistically, my ideal podium is Kimi, Bottas, Giovinazzi, but we all know that's not happening. I think it's pretty obvious that that's not going to happen. But I think this will be Bottas's last podium in F1. I hope the Alfa Romeo can surprise me and he can get one in that car, but he has a massive advantage of Mercedes. So, yeah, that's my first prediction. My second prediction is Ferrari to be very quick. Binotto said in the week that he's looking to exploit the power units in the final round. So he's basically going to turn them up to max, and they are going to fly. I think they will be very strong this weekend, and it will certainly be interesting to see how, if they could even challenge for a podium, because I think that they could actually have an impact potentially on the Lewis and Max fight, but we'll have to wait and see. I've got Kimi driver of the day. I've got the exact same one as you. I think the F1 community will gather around and vote for him because he's a legend and he deserves to bow out with driver of the day. I mean, he's not going to bow out with a podium, so it's probably the best thing. And maybe he can get some points as well. That would be nice. But I don't think he'll be the Alfa Romeo getting points. I think that Kimi will get driver of the day, but I think Giovinazzi will be the Alfa Romeo to sneak into the points. It's his last race. I need one of them to get points or just to get something, because I just like it. I just really love it when sport comes together like that. And I'm really hoping one of them can do something in the race. That'd be really cool. And my final prediction, you've gone for no safety cars. I've gone for no DNFs. I just don't think anyone's going to DNF this race. I'm not really sure why. I don't think there's been many DNFs around this track. I mean, you've had some interesting ones with Hulkenberg hanging upside down in his car, and there's been a few like that. And of course the Perez one last year, but that was a car failure. I think there'll be no DNFs. A lot of people have said they reckon there's going to be a lot of carnage. Max or Lewis might try and take the other one out, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to be respectful. And if it did happen, if they did take him out and it was intentional, then they wouldn't win the title. The FIA would come down hard on them, hopefully, because Schumacher, of course, did that and got stripped of a title. So hopefully that happens if that happens. But I don't think it will. I'm staying positive that it's going to be a clean race, but it's going to be a good race. But now let's move on to our top 5, starting with 5th. Matt, who have you got? I can predict your 4th.
You're correct on that one. As you said, I think Ferraris will do very well this weekend. So in 5th, I've got Carlos Sainz, Mr. Consistent. Just such a great driver. P4, Mr. Leclerc. For third place, I think Verstappen will finish third. I feel like the pressure will get to him in some point during the race. Maybe he might lose a little bit of his front wing, battling with Hamilton. And in second, I think Bottas will finish P2. As I said, it's his last race in Mercedes. He'll want to give it absolutely everything. And then to win the race, I think it'll be Lewis Hamilton.
Some interesting predictions. In fifth, I've gone for the man I'm repping that gets disrespected in the predictions every single week. I think he's going to get in the top five. I'm not predicting big things. Fifth in a Red Bull still isn't amazing, but I think he'll come fifth. I got Sergio Perez. In fourth, you've been saying it so much that it's got on my head that it's going to happen. Leclerc in fourth. As you said, he comes fourth a lot. I'm pretty sure ever since then he hasn't come. Every time you predicted it, he hasn't come fourth once.
He has qualified fourth in the last race.
He's qualified fourth, but he hasn't finished fourth. But this week, because both of us are saying it, I'm sure it's going to happen. In third, I've got Valtteri Bottas. I think he's going to sneak onto the podium, though he'll be pressured quite heavily by Leclerc. In second, now this is the drum roll. Who do I have in second? Who is going to win the championship? I think it's going to be Hamilton in second. I think that a lot of things have not gone Max's way this year. He's been a bit rude with some of the things he's done in recent races, but I think he's going to win the title. If he does win it, it's fully deserved. If he doesn't win it, I'm pretty sure it's the best second place in years. He's breaking records if he wins this or not. So I think it'd be pretty unlucky if he didn't win it. Of course, I want Hamilton to win it. I want him to get his eighth, but I think Max is going to grab it. But I'm very excited to see what happens. And that wraps up our podcast previewing the final race of the season at the Yas Marina circuit. I'm so looking forward to this Sunday, watching this race, and I just can't wait to see what unfolds. But we will bring you a review on Monday. The race is at 1 p.m. British time, so it's not at 5:30 like the Saudi Arabia one. 5:30 was a bit weird, but 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Make sure you don't miss it, because this is going to be one for the ages. But thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, download, comment below who you think's going to win in the decider. And wow, I can't contain my excitement. As I said, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And we will see you on Monday for a review. Thank you.